Hey, welcome in.
Welcome to the Arrowhead Addict podcast.
We are here coming to you live. The Kansas City Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl. You only win a Super Bowl 2 times every 5 years, right? Oh! The warm-up act is over. Let's bring in Melissa Etheridge, massive Chiefs fan. Melissa,
Super Bowl champion, 2-time Pro Bowler, and Trent Green. Trent Green, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Oh, he picked it up! He picked it up! He's gonna score! And we'll see you next week, but until then, as always, go Chiefs.
Welcome into the Arrowhead Addict podcast on this Tuesday. Sterling Holmes, Josh Brisco. You can follow him on the X at JB Brisco, myself at Homestretch KC. Brisco, what's up, dude?
I've been trying to figure out how and when to tell you this, and I think this first show between the Ravens and Bengals games is the time to do it. I understand why for years you said the Twitter and the Facebook. It's because you're an old man in a younger man's body. That I am fully aware of. But every time you say something like, follow him on the X, it does sound like you're referring to a past relationship. And I just don't think the naming convention works quite the same way with the X as it did with the Twitter. You can blame Elon. I just think you might have to pivot a little bit.
Okay, so follow Briscoe's X on Twitter.
Weirdly, at JB Brisco. I don't know how that happened.
I will say, just start the show off, such a bad beat last night with the Jets 49ers game. So I have one player left. That player is Christian McCaffrey. I'm down 4 points in fantasy football. I'm feeling pretty good. Down 4, you got McCaffrey left. That's outstanding. Well, it's Monday. I don't have Jordan Mason. This is a redraft every single year. I don't know who the backup's going to be. So I go, well, it's week 1. McCaffrey said he's going to play. So I can find out who's going to come in the second snapshot or the second guy in behind him. I'll pick that guy up. Well, McCaffrey said he's playing, but Shanahan said no, and we still don't know if Jordan Mason was lying or not. We did find out he hates the media because apparently everyone wants to get him in trouble. He had some interesting post-game comments.
I didn't even take that. He said it's why he didn't like talking to the media. I as a media, didn't even take that personally. That's just his team's fault, man. You can't put your guy in that spot to make sure he continues this organizational lie after letting it slip excited post-game after he had the game of his life. That's Shanahan's fault. Frankly, I think the Niners should fire him.
I was dying laughing, though. I'm like, that's just a very normal question that any person in the media would ask. Like, hey, when did you find out? Like, how exciting was it right before?
But he'd already gotten in trouble for saying it because he said it right after the game on the broadcast.
It was just incredible.
He already been scolded once.
Like, dog, you're a UDFA. How often have you ever talking to the media? Not trying to be mean, but you're not McCaffrey. Dudes aren't lining up to ask you a lot of questions.
He just got yelled at by his coach like 10 minutes before that. Again,
either way,
Shanahan's fault.
We'll go back to the bad beat because no one cares about when you win. It's funny when you lose. So yes. I lost by 4 points because of this. And not only that, we do a thing weekly in our league. Whoever scores the fewest amount of points, well, you have to wake up Tuesday morning, crack open a cold beer before work, chug a beer, and send a video to the group. So my Tuesday morning when I woke up...
Is that why you started no players other than McCaffrey?
I just wanted the free beer. Well, it's not free to pay for it, but I just wanted the beer on Tuesday morning anyways. It's a good excuse.
Guilt-free Tuesday morning brewski poured over your Frosted Flakes, your absolute sicko.
Yeah, so I did a video, and you can hear my fiance in the background. I tried to sneak downstairs so I wouldn't wake her up. She hears the beer. No. She hears the beer crack, and she goes, "Sterling." I'm like, I lost. McCaffrey didn't play. This is all caught on video, and then I'm like, "Hey, sweetie, I got to finish this video I'm doing right now." I try and get a frosted mug. I pour the beer in it. I try and shoot beer pong balls into it. Don't make a single one because it's early and I'm not yet warmed up. Have yet to have a single sip of water or anything yet. Eventually, I just go over and say, screw it and chug it. And it is not fun. So that was my Tuesday morning.
You guys get married in a month, right?
Less than that, yeah.
I think it's not less than that. I think it's
October 5th.
Is it the 5th?
Yeah, it's like 3.5 weeks.
Less than a month. All right. my incorrect. I'm double checking my calendar.
Yes,
They
shockingly, Brisco, it's not on a Tuesday.
Almost double booked it. So no. My point is, you guys are getting married in less than a month. Did you see anything in her eyes at 8 a.m. on a Tuesday morning as you, I think, worse went for the frosted mug instead of just cracking it, chugging it, and getting it over with, like getting into the shower and making your day happen? I'm guessing I know she's seen you drink before 8 a.m. before, but on like a work Tuesday, is that new for her?
No, because she's seen me get last place in a week before. Injuries happen. It's fantasy football. But you know what? I realized things are not bad because the Bengals got their ass kicked and the Chiefs are 1-0. Let's be real now. The Chiefs took care of business. Whether we think it was a pretty game, an ugly game, they are 1-0. There were a lot of positives to take away. We talked about it offensively, electric. They struggled in the red zone. Defensively, I think a lot of the secondary issues, for me at least, my nerves have been calmed. Yes, there's some issues with the defensive line. Yes, there's some issues with the linebackers in coverage, especially not just Nick Bolton, which I know is he was getting all the ire of fans, and to an extent, deservedly so. I love Bolton. I think a lot of that was he needs to knock the rust off. He's missed a lot of training camp. He's been injured. I think he'll be better. He's never been that bad in coverage. But Drew Tranquill did not look good in coverage that game. Leo Chennault, that's not his game at all. Him and Willie are both the top of the athleticism scales sheet, but they're just slightly different style of athletic players.
Totally.
That's not his game. Coverage in the linebacker room is going to be an issue. But a lot of my questions going into that game in the secondary, at least for me, were calmed. Now, they should have had a tougher test as they faced the Cincinnati Bengals, the secondary I'm saying here. But with the concerns of T. Higgins, with the unrest of Jamar Chase, even talking post-game about why weren't you targeted down the field? Well, you got to ask Zach that in regards to his head coach. Maybe Zay Flowers and Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely were the tougher test than this upcoming Bengals team.
Well, and I think to your point about the secondary, I do think that's probably, it's funny because we are almost a week removed from this game, but like I was writing a story that's going to go up tomorrow morning on ChiefsOnSI.com, and I was like, oh yeah, this is week 1 grades getting published, our reaction to it on Wednesday morning. It's been a week since the Chiefs played football, but it's the first week of the season. It is a long week that way. I'm sure we'll spend some time in both the Ravens and Bengals matchups here today, but going to the biggest takeaways from Chiefs Ravens, I think that is probably something like 3rd on my list, and it's kind of tied for 2nd. And in the main takeaways, I'm going to just go ahead and tip my hand a little bit. The offensive firepower, Xavier Worthy being ready as a rookie, Rashee Rice going for a buck. That's like the flashy, that's the fireworks of that game, and I think correctly so. Jalen Watson just looking totally comfortable out there after having a rough preseason outing. Trent McDuffie got by Zay Flowers early in the game. I think it was a little crosser that may not have even been entirely his fault. I think Seth suggested maybe McDuffie was expecting some help there. That's fine. He was an absolute dog the rest of the game. I think your point about Nick Bolton and the rust is fair. This doesn't necessarily denigrate that, but Justin Reed did not look like a rusty football player, despite also having missed all of that action. So I do think, and then also you get those Leo Chennault based kind of 3-3-5 packages, because Chennault does have some of that flexibility, the up to the line, back in the box, where he fits in there. While of course a guy like Drew Tranquill wasn't a perfect game, but you did see reps from him backpedaling all the way into the secondary at the snap, trying to give a different look to the Ravens. You got to see how all of those groups came together. And one thing that we got pretty definitively, it wasn't universal. It wasn't every snap. A Steve Spagnuolo defense is never going to do any of this every snap, but Trent McDuffie was the main slot defender in that game as well. Just like last year, if you're only had 2 corners on the field, McDuffie's playing outside, and he's probably a top 5 outside corner, but he's a top 1 slot corner. And we saw plenty of times that that Justin Reed and Brian Cook and Shamari Connor were on the field. We saw Connor and really all of those guys get up to the line of scrimmage and find some versatility in the secondary. But we saw those pieces come together. And I don't know if anybody had a bad game in the secondary. Joshua Williams had a bad moment, I think, but he got a decent little workload, and you kind of find your man zone splits for a guy like Williams, and you make it work. So I think that is a major takeaway from this game. Absolutely.
Yeah, again, we talked about it going into the game, almost going into the regular season, saying, well, the coaching staff's worried about the CB2 role. Should we be more worried, even though we've seen all these guys play legitimate snaps in the NFL and look good? And I was kind of trying to fight and toe that line. And I think at the end of the day, we have to sit here and go, no, these are NFL players who look good in the NFL games. Why are we caring so much about preseason and training camp? Again, coaching staff may have used some of that as motivation to see if one of those two guys will take the just take the horse by the reins. Maybe that wasn't the case, but still, they will find a way to put those guys in good positions, in a good spot to succeed. Couple of comments I want to get to. Ken says people should get off Bolton's nuts. Guy just got back, was out last year, 9 games, and still placed 6th in tackles. I don't know if what you Ken. I said I think it's rust. Again, he's never been good in coverage, but he's never been that bad. I think it's rust. But that's obviously not his strength.
I'll point people over. I think Seth Kaiser's going to have his Bolton film review out tomorrow, and you can see what Seth sees, and you can decide if you agree with Seth or not. Listen, if anyone knows Seth's not perfect, it's me. But you can get a closer look at it. Then here's what I'm going to say narratively that is beginning to I don't want to say frustrate me. I'm sleeping fine at night because of this, or in spite of this. But the narrative and the conversation around Nick Bolton has been how much should the Chiefs pay him, how much Spags loves him. He's always in the right spot. $15 million a year, $14 million in a year. It's going to be double digits AAV. Where is that going to land exactly? If you want to have that conversation, of course he's going to be held to a higher standard than Leo Chanel. Like Leo Chanel is in and I will see how much he plays against Cincy. He had a fabulous game. I'm here to praise Chanel, not ding him. But Chanel in this like specialized role, and by specialized I mean lots of roles, but doing all of these specific difficult things at a very high level. He's doing it in year 3 on his rookie deal. He's doing it as a guy who had great Super Bowls, but not tremendously large workloads over the course of entire seasons. So just a little bit more of an unknown. Drew Tranquil, we hold to a pretty high standard, but he's going to end up on a lower salary number than Bolton will once Bolton gets his second contract in the league, as Tranquil got a nice little chunk of change from the Chiefs this offseason. So here's where I will plant my flag pretty firmly at this point. If you want to talk about Nick Bolton being a top 10, top 15 linebacker, you've got to be able to point out when he has terrible games and terrible moments. I do want to see what he looks like in week 4 before we decide can he stay on the field? Because the version of him against Baltimore, that guy was a liability. He wasn't just neutral, he was a negative on the field. I don't think that's a fair. I am as strong on team let Nick Bolton hit the market. I'm as strong on that team as anybody. I would never say that he's been a liability for the Chiefs over the course of his career to this point. That's a huge overstatement. I don't think week 1 against the Ravens is exactly who Nick Bolton's going to be all year, but you do need to note a game like that when it's a guy you're talking about paying a lot of money to. That's just what comes with the territory.
Yeah, and again, I'm a Mizzou fan, a Mizzou alum. I love Nick Bolton, but I'm also trying to be unbiased here, and I think I do a pretty good job of being unbiased. He's played a lot of great games here in KC. That was not one of them. Yep. That's all it is. Yep. I want to get to one right here from Blake. Says, I know the Bengals always start slow, but I think they'll show up next week, especially if Higgins is healthy. This is interesting. Yeah. Zach Taylor, 1-10 in the first 2 weeks of the season. Wow. It's just asinine.
I had heard slow start. 1-10?
1-10. First 2 weeks of the season.
Is this year 6 for him?
Yeah, 1-10.
He's been a head coach for 6 years? Wow. He's one of the longer tenured head coaches in the league. That's crazy. I had not even... Yeah, all right. Sorry. Go ahead. That wasn't your point. That was just what distracted me.
And my point is, have they played some tough games? Sure. The Patriots were not one of them.
No, correct.
Now, this is clearly a situation where he's going to stick with doing this because they've still won a playoff game. They've won multiple playoff games. They've not won a Super Bowl, but they have been to one. They basically say, hey, we want to get our guys healthy. We don't care about preseason. We'll let them work in the first 2 weeks of the season, basically our preseason for the Bengals. That's going to obviously hurt their chances seeding-wise, but that's how they play this. But how do you view this? Because this is week 2. This is traditionally, hey, this is an easy loss for them, but it's the Chiefs. Is their game plan different here, or is there even a game plan that can adjust for the fact that a lot of their guys just might be rusty, including T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, and Joe Burrow?
It's so interesting, and it's Tuesday, so I don't feel too bad saying this now, but I do not know yet. I don't know where, because this, so several layers of things. First of all, unless I'm forgetting something obvious, the Bengals, and this isn't me defending what they've necessarily accomplished, but the Bengals have accomplished more than any AFC team other than the Chiefs since Tom Brady's last Patriots Super Bowl, right? Like, they're the only other AFC team to get to that point, and then the Rams won that. Like, just that in context of the Chiefs being all-time star stoppers in this dynasty, in this decade that is still continuing. Crazy thing to think about, because the Chiefs are just always the monster, and the monster almost always wins. It's mind-boggling. In terms of the 2024 Bengals, the tape is bad and the vibes are bad. Like, what you saw is bad and what you feel is bad. If you have a team that feels disjointed or argumentative or unsettled or slow starting, you can withstand some of that if you turn on the tape and you see like a relatively efficient offense that just got unlucky. Or, I mean, the Patriots defense might be way better than we are giving it credit for and than we were expecting it to be. There's a chance of that. They've got some talent there, and Gerard Mayo certainly seems like he's got them heading in the right direction. 10 points? 10, even if 10 points, it's not like the Patriots put up 30 with Jacoby Brissett back there. I mean, a 16-10 final is not exactly fireworks. But here's a stat to go. We're familiar with the vibe situation right now, right? The receivers either don't want to be there or aren't currently there. The quarterback is coming back from an injury. You can talk about rust and all of that too, but he looked uncomfortable. And then, according to Next Gen Stats, Jake Liskow tweeted this out. Joe Burrow was pressured at the third lowest rate of his career and still only averaged 5.6 yards per attempt while not under pressure. That's not it's not quite a Bo Nix stat line, but
that's
boy,
Russell Wilson last year.
It's kind of Broncos. It's not Broncos Bo. It's kind of Broncos Russ, where it's like, well, again, for whatever the Patriots defense was doing, and if it's suffocating in the secondary and limiting the run game and all of that, that's one thing. But Burrow wasn't pushing the ball downfield at all, and Jamar Chase was out there. It seems like the early returns right now, just sort of publicly, are that T. Higgins probably isn't going to be ready to go for this game. And look, I mean, like, would I still bet on Jamar Chase going like 5 for 75 and a touchdown? Yeah, I probably would, because he has a way of doing that. And maybe that's a really tough matchup for Jalen Watson. He's not really your McDuffie matchup necessarily, but McDuffie is your best corner, and he's going to be the best receiver out there. So Chase, by the way, I do this every year. Chase isn't huge. He's like 6 foot, but he plays 6'6". He's one of the most unique receivers in football in that way.
He's thick too. He's sturdy.
Yes.
He you're right though. He's one of those, I don't want to say shorter, because he is, you're right, 6 foot, but he plays
flat 6. That's what I was.
I think he's a flat 6, but he plays a lot bigger than he, and even looks bigger when he's on the field. It's one of those times where you're like, I think the NFL is actually not giving him enough. Like, he actually might be 6'2".
Yes. Jamar Chase is listed as 2 inches taller than Tyreek Hill. That doesn't feel right to me in either direction. Maybe Tyreek's getting a little boost there, but it's bonkers. So all of that to swing all the way back around to kind of where I'm at vibes-wise in the Bengals right now. there are a lot of things pointing against their ability to actually not put up a challenging game against the Chiefs. Almost every NFL game has moments of being hard as hell to actually get through. But it would be really hard for me to build an argument that the Bengals are a peer of the Chiefs right now. And I mean, that is going to lead to me. I don't have a score yet. I'll have to figure that out as the week goes. I am certainly taking the Chiefs to win this game, and I'm feeling relatively confident about it. The crazy thing, though, is for the Bengals, if you beat the Patriots and lose to the Chiefs in week 2, no big deal. You're 1-1. I don't even know who the Ravens have this week, but let's say the Ravens are 1-1. And you could say the Bills the Bills had a scare. Maybe they slip up this week. You're going to find a lot of contenders in that space, even if the Chiefs are 2-0. If the Bengals are 0-2, tied at the bottom of that division. Obviously, the Browns look like a dumpster fire. The Steelers escaped, and the Ravens fell to the Chiefs in week 1. If you're 0-2 with 2 conference losses, one of them, let's say the Patriots are anything resembling a wild card team, just that they're frisky enough to be in that conversation. Well, now you've lost a tiebreaker to New England. You've certainly lost your tiebreaker to the Chiefs if you wanted anything to do with the 1 seed, but that was going to have to be a hell of a run anyway if you're starting 0-2. It is a game that the Bengals probably need more right now, but I do not think the Chiefs are going to do anything resembling sleepwalking because 1, they know that's true for Cincinnati, and 2, it is Cincinnati. This may be other than week 1, this might be the best time to catch the Bengals when they're not healthy, they're not vibing yet, and you have a chance to certainly not end their season in week 2, but the Chiefs could drop a pretty hefty hammer on top of Cincy in this game.
Yeah, it's also one of the situations where the Chiefs then have the tiebreaker. They're basically 3 games up through 2 weeks on Cincy, which is pretty hilarious. Again, don't want to get ahead of ourselves here because they still have to obviously play the game.
Those are the stakes. Those are the stakes.
But I'm with you. I love the Chiefs in this one. It's the Chiefs off of a mini bye. We know Andy Reid off of buys. We also know that Mahomes keeps tabs and the rivalry of the Bengals as well as the chirping of the Bengals. We know that Mahomes seemingly gets up a little more for situations like that. I don't think the Chiefs come and play lightly, even knowing the fact that the Bengals struggle early on in the year. And even if T. Higgins does not play, the Patriots were able to run at will. I think that was, let me see who said that in the chat. That was a good one. Ruben DeCruz says Pats were running at will on the Bengals. They were. Ramondre Stevenson was able to just pretty much do what he wanted. I know that he might be a little, I don't want to say more talented back, but maybe more highly touted. I don't know if you'd say that than Isaiah Pacheco. Maybe a little longer track record. Whatever your thoughts are there. Both very physical backs as well. Do you think the Chiefs will try and stick with Pacheco and maybe Carson Steele, the bigger body on the ground a little more against the Bengals? Or what's your viewpoint here?
I think they're probably going to continue to let the running game be the thing that plays off the pass game. I mean, they've been doing that by and large for the Mahomes era. I mean, Andy Reid's done that throughout the Andy Reid era across teams and decades now. So I have to imagine we're going to just see that ratio continue to get figured out. I think Pirine will get more reps against one of his old teams here, in large part just because he is the guy you can trust in pass protection. And with that as my little pivot here to the passing game, I will tell you the one thing that I'd be sweating a little bit, and it could be the thing that Pirine is around to help. Hey, Kingsley, all right debut. He got left alone on an island a lot. The Chiefs mostly let him handle his own business, and that was not a clean sheet for him, but I think it was largely an admirable one. Welcome to Trey Hendrickson. If you want to pick somebody who played really, really well in week 1 that got nothing to show for it, Trey Hendrickson might be your best winner there, your best candidate in that group. And as good as things went for Kingsley by and large, there wasn't an edge rusher on the field like Trey Hendrickson and a guy winning as fast as Hendrickson was against New England. So I'm getting there from your running backs question, because if that is a problem, I think a good way to give Kingsley a little extra help against a little higher level of competition is to let Samaje Perine be in there. Not that Pacheco couldn't throw a chip out of the backfield. He certainly can. But it might be nice to have a little extra buffer there if the passing game gets disrupted by Hendrickson a bit.
I'm with you. I'm with you with Trey Hendrickson because he's just a stud.
Yep.
But I like what I saw one-on-one, as you mentioned with Kingsley. It wasn't
There's a lot
great.
of it.
It wasn't great, but it was a lot of one-on-ones. And if the Chiefs feel like they need some help, they will, as you're mentioning, put in Samaje Perine. Maybe Peyton Hendershot is active for this game, right? Already a Mahomes ride or die guy. He might be active for this game. And Mahomes is very mobile. Brissett's a mobile quarterback as well. But with Andy Reid, with Mahomes, some of those design rollouts away from him, you'll see some of those. I wouldn't be surprised if you saw a couple rollouts away from Trey's side just to buy an extra second or two. Overall, I thought I really liked what I saw from the Chiefs' offensive line against the Ravens. There were some up and downs, obviously, but no offensive line is going to be absolutely perfect. Overall, I liked it. I as of now, again, this is Tuesday. I have the Chiefs being I don't want to take the Bengals lightly, but I have the Chiefs as probably a double-digit win over them. I'm pretty dang confident right now. I know Lou Anarumo, and he does a great job against the Chiefs every single time. I get that. I feel pretty confident right now, which is, again, maybe it's a scary feeling because it's a weird feeling to feel confident this early in the season when there are, again, still some moving parts for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, and I mean, also, like, week one, this is another version of the Bolton conversation in some different ways. Not a good day for Joe Thuney. One of his worst days as a Chief, which makes some sense because the last time we saw him play, he was playing with a torn pec. And everything since then has been about the surgery this offseason, the recovery, missing almost every bit of training camp. He was active towards the end, but he didn't do a lot of super physical stuff, and then he didn't play in the preseason. So Joe Thuney getting, like, powered back a little bit is a very, very rare sight that makes sense when you realize, like, that pec might not be back to full strength just yet. Fine day for Trey Smith, I think. Probably not his best either. But the entire offensive line was able to, I think this is maybe kind of finding the synthesis point between the optimist and the pessimism of how that group performed. I don't think any of those guys, and I get Creed graded out really well. And he's the hardest to see when you're, watching the game sometimes. So let's at least say the guards and tackles. None of those guys had great games. I'm not sure any of them had really good games, and the result was fine. At least in pass protection, I should say. A lot of they were moving on the ground pretty good, and I minimize that when I'm talking about O-line play, and I really shouldn't. But in terms of the pass protection, that whole unit had stuff to improve on, and the passing game was still efficient, in large part also because a lot of it was still very quick. Most of those Rashee Rice passes were Creed to Mahomes to Rice before you knew exactly where the ball was going, or before a Ravens linebacker could get into a passing lane or get in a better position. So that urgency throughout the offense, I think, helped mitigate some of those little concerns, which is another reason that I do think they can handle different ways of, let's say Hendrickson does get the best of Kingsley on a few reps. There will be ways they can adjust to that. You basically just have to try to make sure Hendrickson doesn't get one of the Lamar Jackson strip sack plays that Chris Jones got in week one. You just want to be on the other side of one of those. If Kingsley loses a rep or two, again, this is a long season and a long process. I am nowhere near calling Donovan Smith at this point, just to be clear.
Let's talk about the defensive line for the Chiefs here. I see one here from Bumpa. Says Karloff has had issues winning one-on-one versus Ravens. Can't wait till Aminu is back. He was also on the harder side, pretty much perpetually going up against Ronnie Staley, right? Because Chris Jones was trying to pick where he wanted to go. And maybe I'm wrong here. Maybe it wasn't all against Ronnie, but that was their best offensive lineman. He's all pro when healthy. He's healthy. But what did you make of the defensive line in that game? Obviously, it was kind of a mixed bag. FAU made a couple of nice plays. Didn't play a ton in that game, but I want to give credit where credit's due. There was at least 2 plays I saw from FAU where I go, all right, there's something there. I thought Chris Jones was doing a great job calling his shot, obviously going up and getting a lot of pressure. Obviously, the one sack, the strip sack. But, I didn't see a ton from Mike Dana. Turk Wharton had overall, I thought, a fine game, but it wasn't like there was a it wasn't like there was a ton of pressure on Lamar, and I couldn't tell if that was Lamar doing a great job getting out and scrambling early at the first sign of pressure. Will they get more on Joe because Joe was more statuesque? I don't know your thoughts on the D line here because it was kind of tough to gauge from week one.
Yeah, I think there's some truth to a lot of the things you kind of floated out there. One, I don't have the numbers on this, but there were a number of times, and I was like, oh, wow, 3-man rush, huh? And then you saw Leo Chanel kind of like getting his hand up near one of the guards and then fading back to spy on Lamar. So I think some of that math got changed a little bit. You're not going to have your fourth pass rusher spying on Joe Burrow, right? You won't need to do that math. And then also Chris Jones. I think Chris Jones had a fabulous game. That was kind of one of my top level takeaways, was that the stars played like stars on defense. That's kind of what I was getting at, with McDuffie being one of those guys and Jones being the other. He was a menace. To your point, his box score does him no justice whatsoever for that game, because it was Lamar Jackson, and very frequently the reason that Lamar was scrambling and was trying to do things with his legs and was trying to get out of the pocket and find other places to go was because Chris Jones just tore apart that patchwork offensive line that the Ravens are trying to figure out their spots with. Turk did have a couple of really good plays. I think he actually took more snaps than Chris Jones by a couple, by the way. So a huge day for him in terms of workload and some good production. I think you saw a lot of Mike Pennell and Derek Nottie early on. That was mostly kind of rushing situations. When Derrick Henry's in the game, that makes sense. The edges, though, I do think are probably the most concerning part of that. I don't, not panic, but you are noticing the right things, I think. With Karlaftis, this is a small portion of it, but it was funny to see. I think it's a little bit indicative of the rest. That last drive, I saw George Karlaftis standing up with the tackle. I can't remember which side it was on. But Karlaftis was on a pass rep, just ended up dancing with the tackle there for a little bit, because you could tell that dude was exhausted. Yeah. And I have never seen George Karlaftis that level of exhausted. The Chiefs defense played way more plays than the Ravens defense / Chiefs offense. And Karlaftis was out there a ton. It was a lot of Ravens passes late in the game, or scrambles, and you're chasing Lamar down. That is a very, very, very high degree of difficulty, and probably the second or third highest degree of difficulty of any quarterback collection, sacking, defending that you could get in the NFL right now. I think Mahomes and Allen both present their own versions of that in different ways, but that would also be exhausting as a D lineman. But especially playing that many plays, I don't want to overreact to just confirm my priors on this. I do think Karlaftis is going to end up in kind of an upper middle class of defensive ends, where he is definitely a starting caliber defensive end, but you don't really need to be talking about him pushing the top 10 or 15 in the league. You know, you get, I don't know exactly what you mean with the elite lines, but you've got 5 elite edge rushers who will rip your head off every snap. You've got 5 more who are great and Pro Bowl caliber every year. I think George Karlaftis is a really good football player and a really nice piece for this defense. I also think that's a bad thing, because if they can just pay him a reasonable salary, they could keep him around. If he gets top of the market money, he won't be a Chief beyond his rookie contract, so keep that in mind. Felix had a couple of cleanup reps that I thought were effort reps, where he was able to make something happen. So I think that's a good sign as well. But by and large, I don't know what I missed from Mike Dana. It may have also been the fact that pretty frequently against a quarterback like Lamar, you do want to go for contain a little bit. We're beyond the point of like, oh, make Lamar Jackson throw the football. He can throw the football. But if you want to make an emphasis not escaping out this outside and letting Jones and Wharton do a lot of the work trying to crush up the middle of the pocket, I could see Steve Spagnuolo talking about that on Thursday and saying that was maybe a little bit of the philosophy there. Also, this team will get significantly better when Amenahu gets back.
Yeah, I think that's a big for me. Okay, let me ask you this question.
Okay.
Question here. Do you feel better, worse, or the same after the Chiefs' victory over the Ravens? Just how they played in totality.
The entire team?
You just overall, from what you thought heading into week 1 and now what we know after 1 week, do you feel better, worse, or the same?
It's very, very close to the same for me. I think I wrote down what the score was. This isn't just like a pat myself on the back thing. I said 27-24, and if that touchdown would have happened, it would have been 27-26 at that point. I expected the game to at least be kind of stressful along some of those levels. One thing we haven't talked about is that a lot of the this game could have been over after the first drive of the second half.
Yes.
That was on the table at one point. Where another big takeaway for me was you got some sloppy offensive football, some drops, some things you could argue about the word drop about, but plays that could have been made.
Juju's, I don't know if you should constitute that as a drop, but it's a play. I think if he would have had better hand plays from the ball, I think he would probably tell you he could come down with that ball 8 times out of 10.
I think
7 times out of 10.
I think 8 or 9 probably out of 10, honestly, especially because it's kind of the type of receiver he's supposed to be able to be there to some extent, right? Like that's not a Xavier Worthy week 1 rookie of, hey, get hit, go up for a ball, high point, whatever. And he had the one behind him that he kind of had a little PBU on. That was fine. But yeah, I mean, the Pacheco should have been touchdown, and Mahomes really shot it out of a cannon, but it went through Pacheco's hands. P. Ryan had one go off the fingertips. Andy Reid's punt on 4th and 5 from the Ravens 40. There were plenty of places where the Chiefs could have made 1 or 2 more plays than getting the ball back to start the second half, could have driven down and scored there, and this game could have felt like it was more or less on ice. That would have been the make me feel better than I did entering this game. The fact that the offense was as good as it was without Hollywood makes me feel pretty good. The running back depth chart was one of our big offseason topics. P. Ryan, after cut downs, ends up assuaging a lot of that for me, and Steele has looked pretty good throughout the preseason. The other thing I was surprised by in the draft was that they did not double dip again at defensive end. Not even double dip. They didn't just dip at defensive end, because I kind of thought maybe it's me being down on Felix, and maybe it's just the fact that they usually try to find somebody there. And hey, maybe there was some thought that BJ Thompson would be a part of this rotation this season. And obviously, he's just got to get like his health figured out. And then it sounds like there's some optimism that he could play this year. But all of that to say, I am very close to where I came into to week 1, because there were a few things I feel a little better about, a few things I feel a little worse about. And, I thought they were probably going to win the Super Bowl before the season. And I think they're probably going to win the Super Bowl now, if I had to guess.
Yeah, it's tough because I went into this year going, they're going to win the Super Bowl in 3-peat, to after 1 week, they're going to win the Super Bowl in 3-peat. Right. But I think I think I actually feel a little better. Okay. Mm-hmm. And here's why. I thought the secondary looked better than everything we have heard by a fairly wide margin. Like, I was expecting almost an utter disaster, at least 1 or 2 blown plays deep. Right. I really did. I think the linebacker room, it was more concerning. But again, I'm chalking a lot of that up to Nick Bolton being rusty, being injured, and working his way back. He also played 100% of the snaps, and I think down the stretch, he was winded. I know, obviously, Chris Jones was Yes, go ahead.
That's not Nick Bolton's fault. That is a coaching mistake.
That would be agreed, because he looked winded down the stretch.
Just put the sticker, give Drew Tranquil the helmet with the sticker on it. We saw him do that. Because I do give that some credence. If Nick Bolton is rusty, winded, not the guy that can, not a little slow perhaps to pushing Isaiah Likely out of the back of the end zone with no time left, if that's where that guy is physically, let's let Drew Tranquil play football. That's okay. You paid him a lot of money too.
And I will also say Drew Tranquil, that was one of his, he didn't play a great game. We've seen Drew play better games, and I think he's going to play better games as the season goes on. Now, I think Leo was phenomenal. Defensive line-wise, I saw a couple of nice plays from FAU. Not a lot, but I saw a couple. That's nice. Chris Jones is the same game record we have always seen, and Turk Wharton flashed at times. Again, I almost am leaning more towards, if that's not Lamar Jackson, maybe you see 4 sacks, 3 sacks back there, but it's Lamar. Yes. He was out there running and making a lot of great plays. So defensively, I actually think they looked better week 1 than I expected, although that last drive was concerning. I also chalked it up. Again, it is what it is. It's part of playing week 1 in the NFL. They gave up a lot of yards that final drive. It came down to the wire. It should not have, but it did, and they were tired. I don't think you'll see that week 5, week 6. Maybe week 6, week 12, playoff time, they might be a little more banged up, but conditioning-wise, they will be in better shape. Offensively, I expect him to take a step forward. We saw that, but even with the red zone stalls, I was so damn enthused. Xavier Worthy getting involved the way he did, Andy Reid not going to Justin Watson a bleep ton and saying he's a rookie. He's got to sit behind here for a long time. Watson, McCall, go out there. No, we didn't see that. There was a design run to him. There was that broken play, obviously. There was another time where you mentioned it. Oh, not quite a 50-50 ball, but like he threw to Worthy in the end zone. Yep. And Worthy had to play defense on it. Yep. Yeah, I like that. Give the dude at least I'm fine with that. But that's a rookie wide receiver in week 1. That was encouraging for me. The offensive line and the run game was encouraging for me. I thought the wide receivers as a whole, again, there were a few drops, obviously, but one was Travis Kelce, one was Juju, one was Samaje Perine, and one was, I don't even know if you want to call it.
Pacheco out of the backfield, yeah.
Pacheco. The wide receivers, I thought, looked pretty damn good, right? Yep. It was as advertised. It wasn't last year when we were talking to ourselves that they have 7 wide receivers and we're just trying to make ourselves feel good. These guys did their job. Mahomes looked great outside of one really bad throw, and he mentioned it, which I thought was hilarious. He goes, yeah, I probably should have gone to Travis Kelce, but I was trying to get it to Rice. How many times have you ever heard Kelce's open, but he was trying to get it to someone else? I have never heard that. So that obviously speaks to the relationship and the connection that Rice and Mahomes have. And then again, I think Samaje catches that ball once he gets a better feel with Mahomes. Maybe Mahomes has to adjust a little bit there, but that's just not playing together at all.
Yep.
And Pacheco, great play call. I thought Andy Reid had a whole bunch of really good play calls in this game. That was an amazing design. Incredible design. Pacheco's not known for being a pass catcher out of the backfield. I don't know who you want to put that one on.
Mahomes could have taken a little juice off of it, but it hit him in the hands, and it was so perfect. Like it was. Andy had to just be so bummed when that ball hit the ground. To your Worthy point, I think the one like silver lining of the worst thing that happened during the preseason is that it's good that Hollywood Brown had that injury on the first play of the preseason instead of the first play of the regular season. Not that that was ever an option, right? Not that that was a choice they made. But if you were going to find a time for your presumed number 1 receiver, and people have fought me on this a little bit, I'm going to say he's certainly the guy who will be used like a number 1 receiver when Rashee Rice may outproduce Hollywood, but he's going to have a more limited role. Not a limited role. He does a smaller number of things in terms of the slants in the middle of the field. They're going to have Brown trying to attack all depths, and maybe Rice will get there at some point. But so I'm using wide receiver 1 for Hollywood. Maybe it's the predominant X receiver. Even that changes some because sometimes you kick Kelce out there and, you get these bunch formations, stuff changes. But the guy who I really thought that was going to contend with 1,000-yard season, and maybe he still will, being Hollywood Brown, him not being out there in week 1, but him specifically getting hurt on that first play of the preseason, and it's not Worthy didn't get many reps after that either in that game, but they went back to St. Joe, and even after quite a bit of Worthy usage throughout the first, however long it had been, couple of weeks of training camp up until that preseason game, it felt like they redoubled those efforts on making sure Worthy was going to be ready to play real snaps in his first game. And he was ready for that. He clearly showed them at many turns that he was going to be up for the challenge. Let me take you all the way back to something that we probably talked about right around rookie.
That's the sound of you taking this back. It's the record scratch.
It sounds way more gastrointestinal than it should.
Yeah, I can see that.
I only heard the second half of the audio track the first time. Excuse me? Pardon?
Is that better?
Let me take you back.
I'm trying to do the Wayne's World thing,
Yeah,
that's what I'm trying to do here.
I got it. It just sounded like a little toot at first so much that it was disorienting.
It's on me.
No, it's all right. I'm glad that we're playing with sound effects. We're having fun out here. I don't remember. We may have not even been doing officially Tuesdays with Sterling at the time, but I had a scale of 1 to 10, like a 2.5 scale of worry for Worthy. in mini camps and OTAs throughout that process with a nagging hamstring. And I made it very clear at the time, none of that was because I was worried he was just going to have a nagging hamstring all year and that he was going to be some like Kadarius Toney spinoff. Sorry, Cleveland Browns legend Kadarius Toney. So that was not my concern. My concern was only, is he going to be ready when the season gets here? Because the one thing that's so hard to recreate is experience for rookies, especially playing wide receiver in Andy Reid's offense. And there were good little anecdotes and good stories out of those times that even when he was sidelined and he was sick at the beginning of training camp, which we definitely were doing the show by then, right? He was sick then, and he was standing with Matt Nagy during OTAs and kind of asking the offensive questions that needed to be asked. All of that for me was just, hey, let's just keep an eye on this. Let's see where this ends up, because if Worthy ends up playing 25% of the snaps in week 1, while Justin Watson plays the someone on Twitter called it the sacrificial X, which I'm sorry, I can't remember who said that. It's so funny. But if you get a ton of Justin Watson snaps and really part-time stuff for Worthy, let's remember this when week 1 arrives. Well, what happened is week 1 arrived and he was completely ready. The Chiefs trusted him. He did a lot of good things. And as we've heard from Reed and Nagy and Mahomes, I think even too, and Worthy talked about this some after the game, if memory serves. Maybe it was a previous time. I can't remember. But there is a real effort to understand the logic of how these routes are working together, what the point of a play is. And being at Texas and the pro style offense probably helped in that regard too. But Worthy really seems like a professional wide receiver right now. And I don't think Rashee Rice was there till mid-season, and it felt like a miracle he got there by around mid-season. Worthy seems ready for a lot, even after missing a lot of that time this offseason and throughout the not really preseason, but offseason, preseason, training camp, OTAs, all of that. He missed a lot of time and looked completely up to speed on Thursday. And I just don't think that could be much more encouraging.
Yeah. Thank you to Buffalo. Thank you, Bills. Although I will say Keon Coleman looked good. Lad McConkey,
these two offenses operate so differently.
Honestly, it's like there. The Bills got the guy that probably works best for their offense. The Chiefs got the guy that works best for their offense. And Lad McConkey is probably the guy that works the best for the Chargers offense. I think all three of those guys end up doing great things. I think Xavier Legette's a really good player who went to the worst situation possible. So sorry, Xavier.
Yeah.
One Xavier got the good stuff. The other Xavier did not. I do see a chat here that says, Sterling, I have to apologize to you, brother. Chiefs Kingdom, what happened? I don't remember you. I kind of, did I get something right? Did I do something right? Because that'd be a surprise. I'm missing a lot of things.
So either you got something right, or maybe he did something that he is going to have to ask your genuine apology for. Okay, I see the comment. What
this is the wife won the tickets to the U.S. men's national team game on Saturday. Parking lot, got sick. Oh, you're fine. I hope she feels better. Man, I hope she feels better. That's unfun. I hope she does, because that was so much fun. I had a great time. I know Patrick did this giveaway. I went with one of my friends, and me and him had a great time. We got there. It ended up being like free food and drink. And it was Team USA ended up losing, but it was USA versus Canada. I wore American flag pants. I got into it. I had fun.
That's where I saw the American flag pants.
Oh, Chiefs King. Well, we'll have to hang out again sometime. Okay. Cause I'm bummed you guys couldn't make it. It ended up being a really, really good time. Oh, yeah. We ended up keeping the day rolling. Went to Hollywood Casino for a little bit afterwards. We watched a whole bunch of football at Hollywood Casino. Threw some bets down, played some blackjack, ended up leaving up $2. Big day for your boy.
Wow,
won $2 on the blackjack. Huge. And then ended up going
+2 total for the whole
on blackjack.
Okay, got it.
I don't even know what it was for gambling. And then decided to play Golden Tee golf at a bar later on. So it ended up being a great day, and I'm really bummed you guys weren't part of it. So next time for sure. Yeah, it was a good time. Really, really good time. All right. I'm going to do something fun here. I'm going to unveil something pretty cool.
Fabulous.
Before I do, I had a little hot take.
Uh-huh.
I want to get your thoughts on this.
Okay. I was going to vamp for you here, but I'll respond to your take. Go ahead.
Is Xavier Worthy going to go down as the best rookie wide receiver in the Andy Reid Chiefs era?
In the Andy Reid Chiefs era?
Yeah, because then you're counting Jeremy Maclin and some
I
other
was
guys.
thinking Deshaun Jackson. Yeah.
Deshaun Jackson. Because basically what you're going with, Rashee Rice had 938 yards last year and 7 touchdowns. Tyreek Hill didn't come on until late, but he came on late pretty strong and was a great returner as well.
Do you need me to stall while you do your other thing, or do you want that take and then you're going to do it?
I'll talk through it.
Okay. I think it's hard not to make it just about this year versus last year, which is pretty funny considering the conventional wisdom there, and also how often the Chiefs and how infrequently the Chiefs have drafted rookie receivers under Andy Reid. I mean, Sky Moore had an impact; it just was a bad one. I think what I might be able to pick up for you here is that it may not be the most statistically productive rookie season, because it's going to be pretty hard for him to hit those 2023 Rice numbers. But I think he could be the most impactful. Maybe that's still hard to say because Rashee Rice. Hey, somebody in the comments just said impact. That's hard to say because Rashee Rice ended up like kind of saving the wide receiving core last year. Maybe Worthy will be the best rookie wide receiver the Chiefs have had, but Rice was the most impactful because, again, I don't know. The Chiefs don't win the Super Bowl without Rashee Rice. With just replacing Rashee Rice with like a defensive tackle or something. The Chiefs don't win the Super Bowl last year, I don't think.
Sure. My thought was, one, well, let's be real now. Worthy's on pace for 34 touchdowns. That's obviously going to hit. Right. The over under is 32.5. I thought the over made the most sense. Free money.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm being facetious. Sarcasm. No, I asked this on Fact or Fiction today, which you know, and I came up with the same thing. I said, I think it's fact that he ends up being the best Chiefs rookie wide receiver, but the numbers might not be the same. And they're like, how can you say? I go, well, you got to find a way of like the impact he makes on some of the deep balls and how many openings under the middle we're going to get. I do think he clears out some things currently right now for Rashee Rice, as we saw. We saw Rashee Rice feasting in the middle, and part of that's because it's a tandem. They work as a team. I'm not saying who's better, who's more important. I'm saying as a rookie, I'm just very impressed with what we have seen from Xavier Worthy, and I think the impact will be felt on almost every single snap he's out there, whether the ball goes to him or not.
Yeah, I think, and with that in mind, if you were to say who's going to be a better football player, Rashee Rice as of February 15th, 2024, or Xavier Worthy as of February 15th, 2025, I would say that Worthy's probably the better player at that moment. But again, Rice was a superhero in a distressed Gotham City. Right now, Xavier Worthy could be the third or fourth best pass catcher on this team this year, depending on how you want to define all that.
And I will again say, this is a pretty damn cool thing to talk about back to back, where it looks like wide receivers, and you're seeing the contract for wide receivers go up, and the Chiefs have some damn good ones. All right, this is pretty cool, guys. So there's this company called Unreal. This just dropped today. Let me see if I can get the box. And I'm breaking stuff already. I knew it.
How do you spell Unreal there, Stu, if the people can't see it?
UNRL. Unreal.
Just 4 letters. Just 4 letters.
And they're working with 8 teams this year in the NFL. It's all officially licensed with the NFL, 8 teams. This year, Kansas City is one of those 8 teams. And this just came out today. I made sure I could be a part of this thing.
Go off camera and handle what you need to do here. I can
you
fill.
Want me to handle? This is what I open it up to. It's an awesome box.
Okay, fine. You can show the unboxing, but I do need you to leave the screen at some point and come back with the goods. Show it off, though.
Well, give me a second. I'm making a mess over here.
Sterling's unboxing, making a mess. Reminder: you can follow me on Twitter at JB Brisco.
This is a mess. There's so much fun confetti. It's like the Chiefs just won the Super Bowl yet again.
You should throw this. You should throw the confetti to end this podcast today, and truly celebrate
I gotta clean
what
it
we've
up
done here.
Okay, it's really cool. So first things first.
God, that's so cool. What's the Oh, it's so good. What's the word for that? It's like a pullover hoodie zipper, but it goes about halfway down.
Quarter zip, or this is actually a full-on tracksuit, ladies and gentlemen. Here are the pants,
man. Yeah, so I'm gonna need. There's anorak hoodie, maybe. It's sort of like that material. It zips halfway down. It's got the kind of like a kangaroo pouch in the front. I think that's what that is. I want to put another syllable in there, but I think it's an ANORAK technically.
And what's cool is they only make a certain amount of these. So they do limited edition stuff. They sold out of a whole bunch of stuff last year. So only 8 teams. Comes with a pretty cool certificate of authenticity, which I actually find kind of cool for someone who, again, I'm not like the biggest clothes guy in the world, but when you get like cool, unique pieces, it's kind of cool.
Literally the biggest clothes guy I know.
Okay, I'm a pretty big clothes guy. That actually is a pretty big factor.
You're not like a streetwear guy as much, maybe, but this is your fit now.
Yeah, and this is going to be on Chief Sunday, no doubt. Like, this is what I'm.
Are you not going to go put it on right now with
Fine,
3 minutes left in the show?
Pause.
Yeah, go do that. So Sterling is hopefully going to get all the way off camera before he undresses and redresses in that absolute sweet tracksuit that he can tell you about when he comes back. I don't have a cool unboxing to do or a fun way of modeling some clothes for you. So I will I'll go ahead and tell you that I don't have a score yet for Chiefs Bengals, but I will be taking the Chiefs, and I'm feeling kind of a 10-point sort of game. I will say, I mentioned this earlier, and this is something that I could be absolutely grinding my gears on for hours at a time. I just would really love it if Andy Reid would be a little more aggressive on like 4th and medium. Just go ahead. Yeah, Patrick Mahomes back there. This offense is the best offensive football. You need a couple of yards in plus territory, and then Matt Araiza boots it into the end zone, and all you get out of the whole thing is 20 yards of field position. Keep your foot on the gas, Andy, and then maybe you can go ahead and blow out the Bengals instead of stressing us all out into the final seconds. Sterling Holmes is back and looking, frankly, better than ever. Can you scoot back a smidge there again and scoot back a smidge and show off the lower half again there a little bit? Let's see the full thing in action. I'm
struggling with this.
Give me a full zip up too. Give me all the way. I want to see that thing all the way zip it up. Yes. We don't have to put the hood. That's fine too. Oh, I'll tell you what. Look, you are so tail. If I saw that man at the tailgate, I would go over and ask what I needed to do to be a part of that tailgate. That is gorgeous thing.
I might actually live in this. I might live in this.
What's the material like? Is it like windbreaker? Is it like
it's like a windbreaker mixed with like almost like, do you know like almost like Lululemon?
Oh,
like it's like an athleisure tracksuit.
Yeah.
It's also wind and water resistant. So this is gonna be my new golf when it rains for sure. So if you see it doing on the golf course looking like this, it's me.
I already tweeted Jason about this today because I think it's really important. You've got to wear the full suit, including the pants. Maybe not every time. You can wear the jacket with some shorts or whatever. I get that. But once it gets into the 60s, I'm going to need to see both of you guys head to toe fitted up. Maybe the first Red Friday show you guys do when the temperature's in the 60s, you got to get on the same page. Did you guys get Dylan one of these? Is Dylan also fitted up?
Sound off. I'm doing Sunday sound off. Should I show up to mix Sunday sound off in this bad boy?
Do you know who you're doing the show with yet?
No.
Okay. There's a lot of funny ways it could go, but yeah, I think you absolutely should. I think you absolutely should.
But yeah, if you guys are interested, check it out on Unreal. This stuff's awesome, dude. It's UNRL. I feel like this is the coolest Chiefs thing I own now by a pretty wide margin.
Sweet. You look
all right,
great.
Brisco. This is fun, dude. Like the Chiefs.
Time.
We both agree are going to win and win by double digits. That's not often that we both find ourselves in the super optimistic camp.
It's just like the Bengals. Oh God. wait.
All right, everyone.
Chiefs by 1. I don't know how. By 1.
Thank you guys so much for listening, for hanging out with us. Always appreciate. If you want to drop us a review, that does mean a lot. Give us a 5-star review, please. We're 5-star men. Give us a like, and we'll be back tomorrow, me and Adam Best taking a little deeper dive into the Chiefs-Bengals game. Brisco coming up on KCSN in about a half hour, if I'm not mistaken. So make sure you get your Brisco dose. Double down,
double dose of that vitamin B today, baby. 4:30-ish over on the KC Sports Network YouTube.
So until
I think
next
we're
time.
gonna talk about Leo Chanel, Nick Bolton, little Justin Watson, and Kingsley Suamata-Ia. That's on the docket over there, and then I'll talk to you next week, Stu. Stay dry out there.
Deep dive with I will stay dry. Oh my gosh, you're so kind. See you guys.